So, Saturday I was going to make this video, and it was going to be the most spectacular, amazing video that you have ever seen in your entire life. But then I thought, I haven't seen Cabin in the Woods, and I want to see Cabin in the Woods. So instead of making that video, I watched Cabin in the Woods. Then Sunday, I was going to make a pretty awesome video that is not as good as the previous video I was planning to make, but it's still pretty great. But then I saw that The Avengers was on TV, so I watched The Avengers. So today, I am making A-OK, I guess. I don't know, I haven't seen the end of this video. It'll be average. You may not have picked up on this, but I like movies quite a bit. Last week I marathoned 13 plus hours of a movie series with my friends, and this weekend was entirely procrastinating by watching movies. Written by Joss Whedon. Most of the bookshelves in my room are filled with movies and not books. I have plastered my walls and movie posters, and everywhere else is basically decorated in movie Lego tie-ins. I try to watch a new movie every week, at least one new movie. I don't usually succeed at that, but you know, the point is, I like movies. This week, I want to talk about movies, about the movies we love, about the movies we hate, why we love movies, why we hate movies, if movies are something we like, or if they're just something that exists and occasionally we'll watch them, if a movie has ever changed your perspective on something, or anything involving movies. Some of my favorite types of movies involve westerns, because I watched a lot of those growing up. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. My tastes kind of vary. For example, my two favorite movies this year is a tie between Mad Max Fury Road and Tomorrowland. One is about how the end of the world is brought about by people just kind of being pessimistic, and one is about Tom Hardy being mad. They're two very different things. I mentioned in my first video on this channel that I like to tell stories visually, and part of the reasons why I like movies so much is that it tells stories visually. There is something to be said about story mediums like books or radio dramas where you have to create the story in your head, but what I like about telling stories visually is you're adding another dimension. You have characters, you have the story itself, you have the world you're building, then you have to visualize all these things on top of making those things good. And I'm not saying movies are a better way of telling story than another form of story. I'm just saying that that's my preferred method, and I like when people can use the visuals to tell the story and not just exposition. A good example of this is King Kong, the original 1933, not 1993, that is way off. The 1933 version of King Kong is a very visual way of telling that story, not opting for as much exposition, but instead showing us this weird, intense world. To be fair, it's not as weird or intense now because we've had movies like Jurassic Park, which strive to be the new King Kong, that pushes forward visual storytelling and effects. But when you put yourself in the mindset of someone from the 1930s, it's really an amazing adventure movie that just blows your mind. You have directors like Sergio Leone who are perfect at editing the visuals that they show you to make these cool scenes like the shootout in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or the beginning to Once Upon a Time in the West, which if you haven't seen those, you might want to go check them out. If you're not a big Western fan, you probably won't like them, but they're really cool and just have some of the best editing I've ever seen. So I'll be back this weekend to talk more about movies and to talk about the movies you talked about in your videos, or the subjects that involve movies, because the topic is movies, and see you this weekend. Claire, you interrupted me.